Well, hello everyone, and welcome back. Today I thought I'd have a little fun, and I guess today I just wanted to talk about meditation. I think it's a thing that's worth talking about. I think there's a lot of health benefits to it. I think that there's a lot of reasons to do it. And I think there are reasons that maybe I are reasons that I don't understand. I'll try to talk about some of those, but those are harder for me to understand, so that becomes a bit of a problem. But meditation, it's a practice I started a few years ago, and it was mostly because of it was mostly because I used to have huge issues with anxiety and still do sometimes. Anxiety, depression comes and goes. But just a whole bunch of other, I don't know, weird neurotic things, like life is hard, right? It's easy to have, a mind that's flooding, a mind that's always afraid of something, a mind that is struggling to enjoy life. It's I don't think this is an uncommon problem, and I think it shows in the statistics of, like, mental health throughout, the modern age. I think these things are becoming a real problem. And I think part of that is we don't have time to let our minds just be anymore. We have our phones. If I got a moment and I'm sitting in a doctor's office, I'm not sitting there thinking about, I don't know, whatever I could be thinking about. Well, I am, but I don't think most people are. Most people are sitting there looking at their phone, or they're watching around with what's going on, or, uh, or, and, and we always got something to do. We're always tied up with something. And I just think that there aren't enough of us that realize that there's a huge value in stopping, taking some time, and looking inward. Now, before we get too far into the situation, I do want to talk about some risks. I don't really know a whole bunch about them. I just know that there is some research that every once in a while somebody will start developing a meditation practice, and it can either create or exacerbate symptoms of certain types of mental health, like these anxiety, depression, various other things. These are experiences that can get worse for people. The worst I've seen is about 10%. Most studies I've seen have it at about less than a 5% rate. And not all studies even talk about side effects. So you got to wonder if there are just studies that never saw, negative outcomes or something. So I don't know. I see it as the numbers maybe as high as 10%. And I also wonder if it's underreported some way, somehow, because it would be easy to miss if I started a meditation practice in a study and I was already prone to anxiety or depression, and I don't know, I had that get worse. Maybe it's the meditation, or I could also see somebody else just going, yeah, it's an ebb and flow of mental illness. And so it's hard to understand how that actually makes it into the research. So before I go on, I don't want to sit here and pretend that it's some risk-free thing. I don't think there's a such thing as risk-free things. I think that there's always a chance that just about anything can go wrong for somebody, and that's just a possibility. So that's the risks. If you want to learn more about the risks, I am going to leave you to do that on your own. I guess I'm not here to sit here and pretend I know everything about the risks of meditation. I just know that they exist, and I think it's responsible to let people know before telling them my other experiences that's a thing. Just because it wasn't my experience to have a negative experience doesn't mean that isn't real. And so when I first started, I had a huge problem. Now, before we get too far into this, we should also talk about, I am an aphantasic. I have no mind's eye. I do not see pictures in my head. Very, very rare circumstances, but it's not a thing under my control, really. It's not about memory. I can't just paint a picture. You start telling me a story, I'm there with you in thought, and I have my way of thinking, but it is not visual. No mind. I also don't have an inner monologue, so some of these tips may be useful to people that are like that as well, because while I have thoughts and I think in concepts, and sometimes I even think in language, it's not an inner monologue. It's not like I'm sitting here talking to myself all the time like that. I do talk. As a matter of fact, I do talk to myself a lot out loud. I think that's one of the reasons I kind of enjoy the camera. It makes me feel a little less weird about talking out loud, because I do talk out loud like this to flush out my thoughts and feelings. Like, I guess it's kind of a natural thing for me to do this, because this is how I deep think. And a lot of times, it's not the only way I deep think, but it is one of them. And so not having a mind's eye or an inner monologue can create an interesting situation for meditation. I don't know if you've so when I started, like everybody else, I started with guided meditations, right? And started simple, maybe 5-10 minute things, that seemed manageable. And and I had this problem where they were always wanting me to like visualize light coming in and out with my breaths, or they wanted me to visualize lighted warm spots on my body to draw attention to noticing sensation on my body. And I never really know what to do with that because I guess the way I understand it, the average person would probably be able to visualize themselves, maybe almost out of body, maybe as looking down. I'm not sure, but they could see glowing, like if they were focusing on something, or they I guess I don't really know how to imagine it because I don't have it. And so I had a real hard time getting started because I would go with these guided meditations and they're always trying to have me visualize something, or like they'd try to visualize like past experiences and try to alter the memory while you were in it. And that was always very strange to me because that's not how I remember things. Like I don't remember in a visual context. I don't remember, like I have knowledge of environment that like you would break down. Like I would know that like I was in an environment that was loud or weird, or I was in an environment that was bright or sunny, but like I wouldn't like see bright light. Like I don't know. It's just my thinking doesn't work that way. And so there are the videos that they try to help people that I think it would be better with like an inner monologue running, like where it tries to guide you into saying things to yourself. And I guess a moment of silence and meditation seemed weird to me if I was making noise, which I later gave up on that idea. I thought it was a dumb idea, like that I was boxing in what meditation needed to mean. I think that's another thing. Just because I'm defining meditation a certain way doesn't make it right for you. I think I'd also like to invite other people that maybe have practices that are similar. Like some religions might call this prayer. I don't know that I see prayer and meditation as fundamentally different. So if prayer works for you, keep that up. A lot of studies have done them side by side, and what goes on in the mind is actually common between prayer and meditation. So some of the mental health benefits, the feeling better about things, the peace of mind, and all of these other things that we hear, spiritual or religious people speak about are kind of common. And it's kind of this practice of just slowing down, organizing your thoughts, and trying to explain that to something outside yourself. Like there is a value in that. There is a peace in that. There is a, I don't know. There's well, here's one of the ways. Okay, so here's one of the meditation techniques that I really, really, really enjoy. And to this day, I still use this practice a lot. I believe there's a guy out there, actualize.org, Leo Guru, not Guru, Garu. It's actually funny. I think that's his last name, and it's almost Guru, and it's kind of funny. He does actualization work, like self-development, self-help type work as well. And and I really liked the meditation style I first heard about through him. And his style for meditation is to sit down, be calm and still, and just wait to experience something, whatever that is. It might be if you're outside. Like I used to, when I was doing this, I was living by an ocean and I was meditating down by the ocean on nearly a daily basis. And the very first thing almost always that started my meditation was I would observe, or I would notice the sound of the ocean. I love the sound of the ocean. I love the sound of lapping waves on the shore. I love it. And that would be the first thing I would notice. And then the second step. So first you notice, then you savor it. Whatever the sensation is, even a negative sensation, it would be savoring it. And so enjoying the ocean, hearing the ocean. And then that might evolve into hearing a bird or hearing rustling leaves or something else. And the whole point is to just enjoy it. And just let that moment be. And to exist in that moment. And then, once that moment feels enjoyed, fully allowed to exist, move on and wait for something else. And what I would find is it would start with the physical things. Like I'd notice the ocean, I'd notice the wind. There was one day I was out there and a whole group of workers came out and they started chopping the mangrove trees along the ocean where I was sitting by. And so I had to listen to all this loud gas powered trimming equipment. And at first I was annoyed and I was noticing it and I was trying to go through my savor step, and I was trying to savor it. And I'm like, you know what? This is just humans being humans. This is humans doing what humans do. Humans like controlling their environment. We like shaping our environment. And this is just humans being humans. And I moved on from that. And I don't know that I've even had a time where I was upset because there's lawn mowing outside anymore or any sounds. I actually live in a very heavy like plane traffic area, and I don't like, even when like a plane comes by that like is like almost like rattling the building. I don't know if you've ever lived in a heavy traffic spot, but it almost rattles the building sometimes. And I still have callbacks to that moment where I stopped being mad that there were people trying to cut mangroves while I was meditating, right? At first it was that they're intruding, but then it went to, I'm just going to savor this. And I came to an understanding in that moment. And I have understandings like that all the time with things like that. Another thing that I notice that happens when I meditate that way is I'll get a feeling. And sometimes that feeling, I won't even understand where it's at. Like I'll have a random rage feeling, or I'll have a random unfairness or an overwhelm. Like, and it's interesting because it becomes a time where it's just checking in with myself. What does my body want to notice? What does my mind want to notice? What does it want to bring to my attention? Because I feel like emotions need a place. I feel like we're so busy that we don't give ourselves time to actually experience what we're experiencing. And I think this is why we have such a widespread problem of things like, lashing out. We have all these pent up emotions that we don't really allow to exist. We can't express them with other people because that would be socially unacceptable, and we'd probably be rude or harmful or destructive or abusive if we did anyway. And so it is probably better to deal with some of these things alone or in a controlled setting like in meditation. But what I found from doing that is I had all of these problems that were pent up and I didn't even know they were there. And just sitting down and giving myself time to process through whatever my body wanted to bring my attention. And I found that is incredibly, incredibly productive. I've had experiences where, I had an experience once where I had like some low back pain, and my body made me notice some discomfort, like on my inner hamstring. And so I was stretching on that inner hamstring, and for whatever reason, that actually was alleviating the pain in my back once I started working on a different muscle. So it wasn't really bothering me when I was messing with my leg, but my body apparently had the knowledge, I think. I don't know how that works. Like, because what I expect happened was my back actually hurt. That's where the pain was. That's where all my nerves were. But my body understood that there was more to that than what was there. And while my mind was most focused on the pain part, because pain is a thing that we use to go, okay, maybe I should do something to help myself, it didn't give me information enough to help me. So if I was stretching my back, which I did, then it wasn't helping. But when I got around to stretching and massaging the inner thigh, or maybe it was my hamstring a little further around the back, I don't know. But it's interesting that sometimes our bodies just kind of know these things. And, it's definitely a fascinating thing to just sit down and let your body, I don't know, feed you what it wants to feed you. Give it the time to speak back. Anyway, that's one of my favorite meditation styles. And that works out well for me because it fits my thinking style, right? Like I don't need to visualize anything. I don't need to control anything. I don't need a narrative going on in my mind. And so my shortcomings it works with, because I'm just not able to meditate in the way of a lot of people, I guess. Uh, let's see, what other meditations. I guess I do still go into guided meditations, and I guess the reason that I do that, I mean, I still get frustrated with ones that are trying to push a lot of visualization or that wear out, but it is interesting going through other people's process. Like I do enjoy like breathing meditations where it's just focused on breathing. I don't know that that's necessarily like deep internal reflection, but it seems useful to the body, and I usually feel really good. There are even certain breathings that I don't know they claim can actually, change some of your blood chemistry. Like it can, like I guess there are people that have shown that maybe there's certain breathing that can reduce cortisol, maybe even increase. Now it's not like bloodstream opioid, but like cellular opioids, like internal naturally produced, like within the cell, like stuff we create on our own. Apparently, some of those can increase in the cells rather than in the bloodstream. So it's good because it makes you feel good, and it's also good because it does certain positive things to the cell to have these natural things. But it doesn't necessarily, like, it's not necessarily like, actually taking opioids. It's just it's fascinating how it impacts the cell when we make them ourselves. But this is a thing that is expected to be a health benefit because it does cause cells to alter what they're doing. It also reduces heart rate, and I can't possibly say enough about the research that has been done about brainwave states and meditation. People who learn to meditate and learn to do it well, they tend to develop an ability to exist a lot more in a theta wave state. Like their brain actually, when they're not meditating, operates in a different state in many cases than most of us. And so most of us operate in the most alert state, the most aroused state of consciousness. But there are states under that where rather than being reactive, we're more observational. And people who meditate a lot tend to be in those. And what's interesting about that is rather than being all excited and ready to react, like, being afraid of like something jumping out, wouldn't it be better to just be able to have a calm plan for that, to just be able to have a clear mind and go, if something bad happens, I got my spear right by me. And you don't need to think anything about it. You just got your plan to grab your spear. And it's just operating at a different level than, oh my God, what if that animal jumps on me? And you're not developing a plan. You're just stuck in a reactionary scenario. And I think that has use. I think that has value. If we're a little more in control of our thoughts, if we're a little more in control of ourselves, we have a little more confidence. All of those things play into advantage, really, in almost any situation. We all see how the world works. I mean, cooler heads prevail, right? Like the person who can stay calm, the person who can remain in control, the person who has dealt with their emotions through meditating, a person who has given time to adjust their mind to a state where not everything is a crisis or an emergency. Wouldn't that person have an advantage? Anyway, I guess I'm not looking to make an authoritative talk about meditation. I just thought it'd be interesting to talk about for a little bit and, share my ideas. And I also think that, this medication technique that I shared might be super useful to other people who are aphantasic or lack an inner monologue. Like it's great to just be able to sit there and enjoy the sensations, whether it's physical or emotional, and to do that. So anyway, with that, I think that's enough to be said about meditation. I hope you find your own practice and your own way to be healthy, whatever that is, meditating or not. And until next time, be well.